ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the delay. Firstly, we had some technical problems. And now I'm welcoming you to the event today. Good afternoon to all of you who are watching from Germany, of course, and good morning to the Canadian participants. Good morning to Haida Gwaii. I'm Timo Weisberg, Communication Officer at the Staatliche Museen zu Berlin, or in English, the Berlin State Museums, and I'm your host for today. I'm standing here in the newly built Humboldt Forum in the center of Berlin. This room here is part of the soon-to-be exhibition of Berlin's Ethnological Museum and the Humboldt Forum, and is dedicated to the culture and the people of the American Northwest coast. Today, we will follow the erection of a 600-kilo so-called house pole of the Haida, one of the First Nations in Canada. Last week, the pole has been transported from Berlin's southwest, where the Ethnological Museum was located before, to the city center and was brought into this room here by a crane, via a balcony in my bag. By the way, for the historically interested, this is the balcony from which Karl Liebknecht did his famous proclamation of the Socialist Republic. Before the erection of the pole happens, we will listen to an introduction by Lars Christian Koch, the director of the Ethnological Museum and the Museum of Asian Art, which will also present its exhibition in the near future in the Humboldt Forum. Afterwards, and I'm very honored to announce this, Chief Stilta, Mr. Frank Collison, one of the elders of the Haida Nation, will speak to us directly from Haida Gwaii, Canada, or via phone. Afterwards, Monika Cesnik, curator of the North American collections at the museum will follow and will tell us something more about the exhibition surrounding the pole. I will then talk to my colleagues Marion Kremer and Joachim Schröder, who were responsible for the logistics. This all wouldn't have been possible without their expertise. And finally, we come to the main part and have the chance to follow the installation of the house pole live. The whole event will be held in English, except of a very few parts, which will be translated from German into English by my colleague Felicitas von Droste zu Hülshoff. I'm now pleased to hand over to Lars Christian Koch, director of the Ethnological Museum.
Good morning to Haida Gwaii, and good afternoon to all the participants in Berlin. As director of the Ethnological Museum, I am very pleased to welcome you all present via Zoom or YouTube stream. Early hour in the morning in Canada. First and foremost, I want to give a warm welcome to Frank Collison, Chief Stilta, who will be the next speaker, representing the hereditary chiefs from Haida Gwaii. I want to emphasize that we are very honored to have you, Mr. Collison, attend today's installation as a direct descendant of the original owner of the house pole from Old Masset on Haida Gwaii. Hawa, for your willingness to contribute and participate. In addition, I would like to welcome all present from Haida Gwaii and others from the regions of British Columbia. As far as I can see, there are some among them who are connected to the Ethnological Museum and the Humboldt Forum through collaborations already. As partners for the exhibition on the meaning of the Sira that will be presented here in this room starting in 2022. I welcome the colleagues from the Haida Gwaii Museum, especially Director Nika Collison and their colleagues, and co-author Son Zhang. The collaboration with the Haida Gwaii Museum is of great importance to us as a museum, both for co-curating the exhibition and in terms of the support we received from Nika Collison and Sean Young for today's installation for the pole. We very much hope that this collaboration will continue to develop in a sustainable and long-term way. I also like to extend a warm welcome to Lonnie Young, Ellen Davidson, Gwai and Jeline Edenshaw, who are renowned artists from Haida Kwai, who support us with their expertise in many ways. Nancy Turner, who helps as consultant in the development of the CEDA exhibition in the Ethnological Museum, exhibition here in this room. And last but not least, the Haida artist, Michael Yakulanas, who will be adding a mural to the Northwest Coast exhibit. And to all of you who have joined us here today. We are aware that the relationship between First Nations and Western anthropological museums has a long history, a history that has been changing and also painful. For this very reason, we hope that the joint collaboration we have here can narrate these entangled histories and bring them transparently to the public. An important basis for a fruitful and mutually satisfying cooperation is transparency and accessibility of knowledge and objects for all parties involved. This requires new forms of cooperation to be developed and individually for each collaboration, which should be continuously adapted to the needs of all participants. The travelogue of Johan Adrian Jacobsen, who brought this pole of Chief Stilda 1883 to Berlin, shows the lack of respect most collectors and anthropologists at that time had towards the cultures they met and where they got their objects from being shown in museums worldwide. Therefore, I hope that collaborations like the one between the Haida and other First Nations with the Ethnological Museum and the Humboldt Forum here in Berlin are driven by far greater sensitivity and respect. At this point, I have great hope. In this regard, the exchange we have had with each other so far are become a great respect, mutual interest, and of a great deal of humor as well. Thank you again very much for your interest and trust. Hawa. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to all my colleagues in the Ethnological Museum and in the entire Prussian Cultural Heritage Foundation, as well as the colleagues from the Humboldt Forum Foundation, who are involved in the development of our exhibitions in the Humboldt Forum and contribute to the success immensely to today's installation. I am aware that everybody is working with great effort and energy on this major project. I would now ask Frank Collison, Chief Stilda, to do us the honor with his contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I bring you greetings from all the Haidas in Haida Kwai on this beautiful day. And we are very honored to participate in this wonderful contribution and the good feelings that are being developed between our people. And I'm really pleased that you honored us this way in asking us to participate in this wonderful event. The pool, as you know, is very important to us, and it's a symbol of the clans that are represented on the islands, and there are many of us who are part of this society. And we are always very honored to continue to develop good relationships with other nations and other people who have an interest in our culture. And we really appreciate the expertise and the wonderful people who are working on this project and making it a good success. So we thank you so much for including us today, and hopefully we'll be able to have more meetings together and be able to see each other in person and have that comradeship that is so important to us, that we just continue to develop good relationships with everyone. So thank you for giving us this time today, and we really appreciate everything that you are doing in continuing your good relationships with the Haida Nation. Hawa.
Thank you so much for your speech, Mr. Stilter, Chief Stilter, Mr. Collison. It was a real pleasure for all of us. And now I'm happy to welcome my dear colleague, Monika Cesnik, who is curator at the Ethnological Museum. She is responsible for the exhibition here about the American Northwest Coast at the Humboldt Forum and was working on it intensely in the last few years. Monika, I welcome you to the stage.
Thank you, Timo. Welcome to everybody, wherever you are looking to our stream today. I want so much, Chief Stilter, Frank Collison, for your willingness to contribute to this installation of the bowl of your ancestors here in the Humboldt Forum. Lars Koch has already mentioned that the bowls will be integrated into an exhibit when it opens in 2022. The exhibition is entitled Of Cedars and People. A quote from Chief Gu Zhao adds to the title. When the trees are gone, we'll just be like everybody else. In the pictures in the background, you can see it, the forest on Haida Gwaii. The photographs were taken on a trip by the exhibition team to British Columbia about 2 years ago when this was still possible. And it was a great experience for us, especially since we couldn't only spend a lot of time in the wonderful woods, but meet also so many impressive and helpful people. How are all of you? That trip laid the groundwork for the development of the exhibition. The exhibition is developed in cooperation with the Haida Gwaii Museum with our colleagues Sean Young and Nico Collison. It concerns the relationship between people and environment, told through the example of the coastal rainforest in British Columbia. Different chapters will illustrate the associations and interactions between the coastal rainforest, the local First Nations, and the European Canadians. The exhibition narrative focuses on 2 species of trees, the western red cedar, which also the bowls here are made from, and the yellow cedar. Objects and installation relating to cedar will be used to recount the multi-perspective history that these trees share with humans. We have learned that the way the First Nations use and used cedars and all other natural resources is and was regulated by tradition and special methods. Basic principles such as take only what you need and treat everything with respect can ensure that this process happens sustainably in order to avoid endangering the complex system of the coastal rainforest. The arrival of the Europeans and the colonization of the North American continent established a system that was motivated exclusively by economic factors, with wide-ranging consequences for the coastal rainforest habitat and the First Nations. The forest became no more than a wood store. As a consequence of this overexploitation of the natural resources and the colonial state regulations that were imposed, the First Nations increasingly lost the basis of their livelihood. I'm not the right person here to talk about far-reaching consequences of colonization and exploitations. The story of the First Nations will be written and told by First Nations themselves here in the exhibit. Nowadays, the western red cedar and the yellow cedar are still highly important for the First Nations along the Northwest Coast. Not only do they supply wood and bark as raw materials, they also provide a sense of identity. For example, extremely old western red cedars, culturally modified by humans, are mapped as archaeological artifacts and cultural heritage sites thereby legitimizing indigenous rights to ownership and use of the land. The bowl of Chief Stilda that we will install today tells about all the entangled and intertwined histories. It also tells about crucial issues in our museum's history. It tells of the greedy need of Europeans to bring cultural objects of cultures worldwide into their museums and hence contribute to stereotyping. After the two bowls here in the room were brought to Europe from British Columbia, they still had a lot ahead of them. During World War II, for instance, they were stored in a bunker here in Berlin, then taken to the Soviet Union to St. Petersburg. During the time when Germany was divided, the bowls were located in Leipzig, in East Germany, never seen by the public. In 1990, they came to Berlin again and will now be on display for the public from 2002 on, telling all the stories that make up their 150 years old history. Dear participants from Haida Gwaii and other parts in British Columbia, we are very honored that we have you here today to visit the installation and to witness the installation. Hawa to all of you, and we hope to see many of you next year here at the opening of the exhibit of Cedars and People. So I will hand over now again to my colleague Timo, who is the chef of the morning and the evening, and he will announce the next contribution.
Monika, thank you very much. I now will welcome Joachim Schröder, and he, as a monument conservator, organized with the team the transport, the bringing in of the poles into the building, and the installation of the poles. So they had loads to do in the last weeks and days. Joachim, how did you prepare for this tricky task, and what were the biggest challenges facing?
I will tell you.
Thank you very much.
Unser Büro pro Denkmal hatte 2017 mit der Logistikplanung, der Verpackung und des Transports des Wappenpfahls aus dem Ethnologischen Museum ins Humboldt-Forum begonnen.
Our company, Pro Denkmal, started in 2017 the planning of the logistics of the creating and transportation of the pole from the Ethnological Museum in Dahlem in the south of Berlin to the Humboldt-Forum located at the city center.
Bereits zu diesem Zeitpunkt wurde mit allen Planungsbeteiligten die konservatorischen Bedingungen und Anforderungen geklärt.
Already at this early stage of the planning, the conservation requirements of the pole regarding the packing and transportation was closely coordinated with all project partners.
Dabei war die Wappenpfahllänge mit 8,62 Meter und das Gewicht mit 612 Kilogramm für uns die größte Herausforderung für den Transport.
An exceptional challenge for the transportation was the length of the pole reaching 8.62 meters and the weight of 612 kilograms.
Um einen möglichst schonenden Transport zu gewährleisten, wurde der Transport in einer dafür geeigneten und für diesen Transport hergestellten Transportkiste bewerkstelligt, wie Sie das jetzt auch in dem kurzen Einspieler schon gesehen haben.
In order to not damage the pole during the transportation, it was necessary to build a special crate protecting the pole during its journey to the Humboldt-Forum, as you already have seen in the previous little clip.
Die größte logistische Herausforderung und Frage für uns war, wie kriegen wir diese Kiste in das zweite Obergeschoss vom Humboldt-Forum?
The biggest logistical challenge for us was, how can we lift the transportation crate into the second floor of the Humboldt-Forum?
Die einzige Möglichkeit bestand darin, dass wir die Kiste über den Balkon des Portals 4 in den Raum einbringen, in dem der Wappenpfahl auch aufgestellt werden soll und in dem wir uns jetzt auch gerade befinden. Und hinter mir sehen Sie den eingebrachten Wappenpfahl.
The only option was to insert the pole into the building directly into the exhibition space where the pole will be raised, through the balcony over the portal number 4, the room in which we are located right now, and behind me you can see the pole.
Die vorhandene Türöffnung als Einbringeröffnung hat das Kistenmaß maßgeblich bestimmt. Deshalb konnten wir den Wappenpfahl auch nicht liegend, so wie Sie ihn hinter mir sehen, in der Kiste befestigen, sondern mussten ihn auf die Seite drehen, damit die Kiste nicht zu breit wird.
The pre-existing size of the balcony door restricted the size of the transportation crate. This meant that we could not transport the pole lying flat in the crate, but we had to turn the pole sideways.
Wie Sie gerade in dem Einspieler gesehen haben, mussten wir für diesen Transport das Balkongitter demontieren, um anschließend mit einem Spezialkran, der einen waagrechten Ausleger hatte, die Kiste bis in diesen Raum hinein einbringen konnte.
As you just have seen in the little clip beforehand, we had to dismount the railing of the balcony in front of the window in order to then, with the help of a special crane, lift the crane into the exhibition space with the help of an horizontal boom.
Dies wurde von den ausführenden Firmen hervorragend gemeistert. Es war Millimeterarbeit. Wir hatten zwischen dem Türrahmen und der Kiste nur 50 Millimeter Luft und das hat alles sehr gut geklappt.
This was mastered brilliantly by the companies involved. It was really a work of high precision. There was only a 5 centimeter space between the door and the crate.
Auch bei der bestmöglichen Planung haben wir leider keinen Einfluss auf das Wetter. So haben wir die Transporte für den Zeitraum Mai bis August festgelegt.
With all our best advanced planning efforts, we could not influence the weather conditions required for the transport of the poles. This is why we scheduled the transportation for the months between May and August.
Aber wir hatten letzte Woche auch sehr viel Glück. Trotz der angekündigten Regenschauer und Windböen konnte der Transport wie geplant ausgeführt werden.
But we were incredibly lucky last week. Despite the rain and wind announced, we were able to realize the transportation and lifting into the building as planned. There was no rain and only a mild wind.
Ja, es wurde schon übersetzt. Es hat nicht geregnet und es wehte ein lauer Wind. Der Wappenpfahl wird uns Glück bringen.
The pole will bring luck to us.
Für die spannende Aufstellung des Wappenpfahls, der hinter mir liegt, übergebe ich jetzt das Mikrofon weiter an Frau Marion Kremer von den Staatlichen Museen zu Berlin. Danke.
To tell us more about the exciting installation of the pole, I'm now handing the mic to Marion Kremer from the States Museum of Berlin, who was in charge of the logistics.
Ja, schönen Dank, dass ich hier heute sein darf und etwas von der spannenden Geschichte der Wappenpfähle erzählen kann. Nach der langen Vorbereitungszeit, worüber Herr Schröder uns ja gerade schon informiert hat, ist es heute ein großer Meilenstein für uns und wir freuen uns alle sehr, dass wir heute hier sein können.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here today and to tell you a little bit more about the technical side of the installation. After several years of planning and preparation, as ProDenkmal has already explained, we are able now to realize a milestone today.
Insgesamt war die Zusammenarbeit eine mit sehr vielen unterschiedlichen Beteiligten von sehr unterschiedlichen Institutionen. Es ging los anfangs mit der Baufirma und dem Bauherrn, dann übergehend zu den internen Vorbereitungen, die konservatorische Einbindung der Restauratoren bis hin zu dem heutigen Tag und den Transporten letzte Woche über die Spedition und die Arthändler, wo sehr viele Schnittstellen ineinandergreifen mussten und das alles sehr gut funktioniert hat in der Rückschau.
All in all, it was a collaboration of a very large number of different partners from different institutions, starting with the structural preparation of the building by the construction companies, continuing with the work of our internal conservation department, then the transportation and installation by the art transportation company and the art handlers, and all in all, it went very well.
Ich stehe jetzt hier neben dem Fuß des Pfahls. Hier sehen Sie, wie der Fuß geschützt ist und auf Schaumstoff aufliegt, auf einer Palette, und die Palette liegt auf einem Hubwagen, und mit diesem Hubwagen können wir dann gleich, wenn der Pfahl aufgerichtet und in die Senkrechte gebracht wird, unten nachfahren, damit das Objekt geschützt ist.
Now I'm standing at the base of the pole. Next to it there is a special lifting equipment which we will be using in order to raise the pole in a moment.
Jetzt stehe ich neben dem Sockel, das ist die Unterkonstruktion und der Sockel, worauf der Wappenpfahl dann nachher aufgesetzt wird. Schon die Unterkonstruktion war in der Planung sehr an die Anforderungen eines solch schweren Objektes anzupassen, damit da eben halt auch das Gewicht getragen werden kann. Außerdem gibt es eine besondere Fertigungsmaßnahme. Wir haben den Sockel per 3D-Scan fertigen lassen, damit er eben genau reinpasst und der Wappenpfahl genau aufgesetzt werden kann, ohne dass es irgendwelche Probleme gibt.
Now I'm standing next to the base and the substructure on which the pole will stand later on. The requirements for the substructure were adapted to the specification of the poles and additionally reinforced to be able to carry the heavy load of the pole. The base itself was built and designed thanks to a 3D model in order to exactly fit the shape of the pole and to seamlessly connect it to the pole.
Außerdem sehen wir oben die Wandhalterung, über die der Pfosten, der Wappenpfahl oben befestigt sein wird, damit ein Umkippen nach vorne verhindert wird.
In addition, we see at the top the fixtures which will allow to additionally fix and stabilize the pole and to prevent it from possibly tipping over.
Insgesamt ist die gesamte Halterungskonstruktion sehr zurückhaltend gestaltet, damit man kaum etwas von der eigentlichen Halterung wahrnimmt, sondern der Pfahl an sich komplett für sich wirken kann.
In general, the fixtures are designed in such a discreet way that museum visitors will hardly notice anything, allowing the pole alone to be in the center of attention.
Jetzt stehe ich hier noch neben der oberen Halterung. Der Wappenpfahl ist umrandet von Schaumstoff und mit entsprechenden Halteseilen eingespannt. Und das ist eben der Punkt, wo gleich die Kräne anheben werden und den Wappenpfahl anziehen werden. Wir können ja vielleicht auch noch mal kurz einen Blick auf die Hebegeräte nebenan werfen. Das sind die Geräte, mit denen wir dann gleich anziehen werden. Und dann möchte ich die Herren von der Spedition auf die Bühne bitten, dass wir dann starten können und der Wappenpfahl angehoben werden kann. Dankeschön.
Now I'm standing next to the top of the pole, showing the ropes which will be used to suspend the pole in a moment. We are using especially light-built cranes in order to achieve this. And now we would like to invite the workers to start lifting the pole.
davor.
Dann muss ich nicht nur meine Kamera sortieren. Warte kurz.
Ja, ja. Ja, ja.
Timo vor dem Pfahl. Vor dem Pfahl.
Direkt
Ja,
davor?
er nimmt dich mit der Handkamera.
Wow, this is definitely exciting. Guys, wonderful, excellent work. Thank you so much. Now that the poll stands, and the event we're coming to an end, you will have the chance to visit the exhibition in the Humboldt Forum and the poll here in early 2022, when the east wing of the second and the third floor will be open for the public. Now I thank everybody who made this possible, and thanks to all participants and to the audience who joined us today. Greetings to Canada, thank you for being with us, and with the words of Chief Stilter, next time hopefully not only virtual, but in person. Thank you very much. Have a nice day in Canada and a good afternoon in Germany.